Hello everybody and welcome to this video. And I just need to explain something before we begin, that this is going to be the first video in a short series of videos, and I've given it the name Angelic Heavenly Protocols. All right, so it will be helpful if you actually listened in order, and this is number one. It's not what I usually do, but it seemed easier to do it this way. Otherwise, it would be far too long to do in one video. All right. And I just want to explain to you what I mean, because in this day and age, I think that most Christians, we would agree that there's a really huge increase in angelic activity. And yes, I know you're thinking also demonic activity. Unfortunately, you don't get one without the other. And what the Lord is asking of us, I think, is to come into closer and closer partnership with the will of heaven, the desire of heaven, the culture of heaven at this time. All right. And I wanted to give you an example of what I mean. Last year, it was around November time, early November, and I was with a very dear friend up in the north of Scotland. And if you've ever been to that part of the world, you will know that early in November, the night comes fairly fast. And if you are in a fairly remote place, you need to make for security and shelter as soon as you see the sun setting. And so we kind of prayed a lot, we prophesied a lot, and we kind of overstayed our welcome, and we suddenly realised it was getting dark. But as we looked down at the sea, just at the borderline between the sea and the beach, often, by the way, a very good place where you can see angelic activity much more clearly. I don't know why, but it just seems to me it's the case. And we were both incredibly aware of a group of angels, and also what I took to be some members of the cloud of witnesses. Not surprisingly, because that place where we were supercharged with history and previous activity, and so they had a perfect right to be there. But because it was getting dark, we made some comments, me and my friend, among ourselves. And then we just kind of thought, well, we better get back. They'll be worrying about us, wondering where we are. And we turned around and went. And the minute I turned around, and it was the same for my friend, we felt a check in the spirit, and I thought, what have we done wrong? Like something was wrong. And we turned round again, and I realized that we'd actually committed, the world would call it, a breach of protocol. And I sensed that we had brought like a grieving and a sadness to that group of angels and the cloud of witnesses. Why? We hadn't honored them correctly. We hadn't given them the chance to explain to us what they wanted us to do. We'd been too keen on moving away. So really quite a major mistake. And very, very quickly I felt to turn round and to just say, I am so sorry. I didn't honor heaven in this matter, and to thank them and to listen to them before turning around. Perhaps you think that that is absolutely unusual. It may be at this stage, but I think if we are going to be working in closer partnership with the armies of heaven, we need to understand how they function, and we need to understand that they have their culture of honor, they have their protocols, and we have to fall in with what the will of heaven is on the earth. So I believe you me, that evening I learned a lot. I was so sorry, and I thought, Lord, I will try my best not to do that again, but to wait until the angelic activity is clear and I know what any cloud of witnesses are wanting to transmit to me. All right. And so I went on, and I started to think a lot more about the culture, about the protocols of heaven and the angels. Once or twice I've taught on it, and it seems to be now that it's a topic that people are more and more interested in. You do right, because so often we are not behaving in a very honourable way. We perhaps take things too lightly, and believe you me, there's so much joy and love in heaven. You will get all that as well, but we need to behave in a correct, honourable way, and then we too, I imagine, will be filled with the joy of heaven that comes from our obedience and our desire to partner more. And I was led very much to the Lord's Prayer, and I'm sure everybody here, you will know that by heart. Otherwise, if you don't, I'd be really worried. And Matthew 6 verses 9 to 10, when Jesus is teaching the disciples how should they pray. And Jesus says, pray then in this way. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And we might say it thousands and thousands of times. You probably have if you've been a Christian like me for a very long time. But it's like today the Lord is saying, really, you're the ones who are going to carry my will from the heaven to the earth. We are responsible, and we're responsible as well with our cooperation with the heavenly realities, which one day is going to be our total reality, of course. All right, so let it be so for all of us. And it took me to a place where I started to study. Well, I considered I had committed a kind of breach of heavenly protocol. I hadn't behaved myself correctly. And I started to look at what a protocol is on the earth before we look at what it is in the heaven. And it can mean several things. I'll go quite fast. It can be the original draft of a diplomatic document. It's nearly always quite formal, all right? It could be a treaty, it could be a declaration, and it's usually been agreed to and signed by nations or people groups or their delegates, and they've all agreed to it. It's an official procedure. It's rules that usually govern diplomatic occasions. You've all seen them on television quite a lot recently. State affairs. It can be international relations. It can be public official ceremonies. And it gives an official honour to the guests. Not laws, but you can have customs, etiquette, you can have dress code, the way we behave ourselves when we're meeting people from other nations or from other organisations. It gives us some guidelines as to what courteous, honourable behaviour should look like. And it can be a multitude of different things. It depends where you live, but most nations you'll have seen it. And it's usually the bigger the honour given to such an occasion, it usually means that the occasion is very important, or that the rank of the delegate is very important. It might be a king, it might be a queen, a prime minister, it might be a president. But the higher the rank, the more we need to honour. And we need to consider as well that, on this earth, we are members of a nation, a state, and so on, but we are also carrying something of heaven, and our honour needs to be even more so than what is carried on here on the earth. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's less good. The jury is out at some of the things that, we can look at. So there we are. All right. So what do we mean then? And I wanted us to look for a while, all right, at what happens when there is angelic activity. When I became a Christian, it was great. If somebody said, oh, I saw an angel, or perhaps I sensed an angel, or I sensed angelic activity, great, fantastic. And I'll still say to you, great. And it's fantastic. But today, you see, we've got to partner even more with this angelic realm. And we've got to be aware that we are carrying, if you like, the honour, the culture and the protocols of heaven with us at this time. And it can change things significantly on the earth. We can see in the visible realm what it looks like, but we're more and more called to pass through the veil and to see into the invisible realm. And if you like, they have their protocols. Gabriel isn't Michael. The warrior angel isn't the same as the messenger. And we need to have a response that is honouring of the kingdom of heaven. And I went very quickly to John, the Gospel of John, that is, and chapter 18, and the puzzlement of Pontius Pilate. Sometimes, honestly, I do feel a bit sorry for that guy. He was absolutely stuck between the protocols of the Roman Empire, the protocols of the state that he was supposed to be leader over, representing Rome, and odd Jewish rules that he really can't understand. He's really stuck. And of course, Pilate here, it says in verse 33, he entered the headquarters again and he summoned Jesus and asked him, are you the king of the Jews? Because there would be a protocol in those days. There was kings, there were, the Herods and so on, and they were vassals of Rome, but there was a protocol involved. And Jesus said, did you ask this on your own, or did others tell you about me? Good question. And Pilate replied, I'm not a Jew, am I? Your own nation and the chief priests have handed you over to me. What have you done? And Jesus answered, my kingdom is not from this world. If my kingdom were from this world, my followers would be fighting to keep me from being handed over to the Jews. But as it is, my kingdom is not from here. And Pilate asked him, so you are a king then? And Jesus answered, you say that I am a king. For this I was born, and for this I came into the world, to testify to the truth. Everyone who belongs to the truth listens to my voice. Pilate asked him, what is truth? And that's a whole different subject. What is truth? And Pontius Pilate there has a dilemma between the protocols of Rome, the chief priests, the kings who are vassals of Rome at the time, and so on. And the poor guy is absolutely caught between it. All right. So you see, the word that's used for kingdom there, it's basileia in the Greek, for those of you who like to know what the Greek and the Hebrew is. But it's not so much the presence of, on a map of a kingdom, but it's the authority to rule over one. And if you like, what we are learning more and more in this day is how to handle that royal power conferred on us by the death of Jesus, how to do it honorably, how to deal with the kingdoms of this world, how to handle ourselves, and how to cooperate and to understand how to work with the angels and the archangels and the cloud of witnesses today in an honorable way, so that the will and the culture of heaven is made known on the earth. And I wrote down something for you. There are a couple of examples. I don't know whether you read a book. It was an excellent book a few years ago now. Every time I think it was written last year, it turns out it was several years old. Someone actually thought to write a book, a really good one, called Culture of Honor. And heaven has its culture. Heaven has its protocols. It's about holiness. It's about honor. It's about love. Your thoughts, before you've even pronounced them, are already known. It's the culture of the kingdom. It's the having respect and honor and security in the unique calling of everyone else there, whether it's an angel, whoever else you meet there. There is an honor that is due to them according to their rank. There is no competition. There is no jealousy. Wow, we can't wait to get there. But once, on two separate occasions, the Lord seemed to need me to understand what the culture of the devil is like. Oh, because there's a culture, and he has some protocols. It's about jealousy. It's about hatred. It's full of competition. And I remember there was a time I was praying in the city of Brussels with some other ministers. It doesn't matter why now. It's simply that in Brussels that day, I heard some terrible things, and for years I didn't speak about it, but I feel like now we really need to understand what is happening. And it wasn't the culture of heaven. The Lord had shown us already what he wanted to happen in that city today, but he showed me how the enemy had set up a hideous competition between his demons to see who would be the winner. And please don't ask me what you would possibly win in that demonic realm, but apparently it's so. And he showed me how Brussels had been set against another capital city in the world to see which demonic prince could actually win. And you think, oh my goodness. And it was the most hideous thing. Jealousy, competition, hatred. On another occasion, I heard screams. I was actually between heaven and earth. I was flying Ryanair at the time, praying as well, I can tell you. And we were coming quite close to the city of Reims, which, as you know, in France is one of the crowning cities. And I felt the Lord saying to me, just listen to that. And there were screams coming up. And I thought, what on earth is that? No war going on at all. Saul. And the Lord said it's competition going on in that city to see which of the demons can actually hold on. And the ones you could hear screaming were the losers. It makes you wonder. And I believe as we move on, we need to be more and more aware of who we are, whose kingdom we are carrying, the honour of that kingdom, the way we partner with the angels, and even, when we're meeting demons and so on, there's still a way of doing it. We'll look at that in another video. So I want to bless you. I hope this interests you. I think it should eventually interest all of us. Be blessed, and I pray that you will meet and see many angels, whether it's with the eyes of your heart or your naked eyes. Fantastic. But let's learn as well how to interact with the culture, the kingdom of heaven, the angels that we meet there, the living creatures that are there, in a way that is conformed to the protocols and the honour and the love of heaven. Amen. Be blessed.